From the hill country of Texas, this is One Radio Network. Apologize, just a couple minutes late here. Good evening. Well, it was a long weekend. Oh boy. How are you? A few minutes after 7 Central Time, and this is OneRadioNetwork.com, December 29, 2008. Just in case you're lost, and we're going to have some kind of fun this week and tonight. Introduce you to our guest in just a moment. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk with a gentleman out of Vermont who says that this thing is so messed up, this country of ours, we just need to succeed from the Union. And we'll talk with him. Interesting man. Also tomorrow night, living with microbes, or teaming with microbes, planning a victory garden. So we have a 2-hour show tomorrow night beginning at 7. Andrew Goss, going to wrap up the year and look forward to 2009 with the real world of money on Wednesday. On Thursday, it is New Year's Day, and I'm taking the night off, and we'll have a best-of show, and then we'll wrap it with Open Phone Friday. So we got a good week for you, and also a couple other surprises of interviews that yet to tell you about. So let's have some fun. Here's our phone number, 888-663-6386. Email Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com. On the line in Palm Springs. Is it Palm Springs?
Palm Springs, California.
Palm Springs. Do you know, did you used to play golf with Frank Sinatra?
No, I did not.
Oh, man. That's why I wanted to talk to you, Dan Hall, because I thought you knew Frank. I mean, oh, Palm Springs. That's pretty country out there. Dan Hall, his website and company, website is earthfx.net. And I guess the company is EarthFX, right?
Yes, it is. That's research and development, but you can go directly to sleepgrounded.com.
Sleepgrounded.com. Now, Dan Hall, I am quite smitten with this technology that you're involved in, smitten on two levels. Intellectually, when you really think about it, and you get in there and you go, wow. And then also experientially, which I've had the great pleasure to experience your technology the last couple of weeks, and definitely there's something going on. So the basic idea, Dan Hall, is that when we put our little feetsies off of planet Earth, we are no longer grounded. And when we are no longer grounded, then something changes in the biochemical thing with the body. I mean, we're just not as strong. Is that a good way to say it? Physically?
Well, Patrick, if you were to go back into the 1950s and 60s, when our country invented plastics, polymers, and resins, and we implemented them into our lifestyles, what this did was effectively insulate us from our contact with the earth. Prior to that, most people lived majority of their time in contact with the earth by way of leather-soled shoes, when soaked with sweat, become good conductors, and the earth is an actually continually charged electrical field, which is imperative for our health. And this disconnection, and we now have discovered scientifically, has a catastrophic effect on physiology.
So when God made the earth, she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, this is good. You guys stand on this and you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, no, what we're seeing is actually alarming. It's really, truly alarming. It's something that everybody has to be aware of.
So are you suggesting then that the Indians, either by just great karma or they figured it out by wearing leather moccasins and maybe got damp when, with the dew and all that, it was just like walking barefoot on the earth?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I just recently talked to some elders from an Indian tribe. They used to have the children wet their moccasins when they danced around the fire.
Really?
And yeah, this makes them even more conductive. And the Indian has sort of I think we all have some kind of innate knowledge that we're supposed to be connected to the earth. We, as a company, just happen to study the effects on our physiology from that.
So when we are connected to the earth, what's going on? Give us an idea of what the whole process is.
Well, it's important, Patrick, to understand first that we are electrical being by nature,
right,
and that the Earth is struck by lightning millions of times per day somewhere on the globe. This creates what scientists know to be as the global electrical circuit. These are, without getting too confusing, the Earth is continually charged with free electrons. And our bodies and our systems in our body were always meant to be connected to the surface of the Earth. And our disconnection from that allows a couple different things to happen. One is our body no longer has a grid to reference to, and which affects the different systems in our body, because every system in our body is controlled by a different frequency or affected by a different frequency. But also when we're no longer at the electrical potential of the Earth, now our body is affected by electrical fields and electromagnetic fields, which is a concern these days, and this is why we ground our televisions and our appliances, and Lord knows why we haven't grounded our bodies.
Let's go back, and you said, Dan Hall, a grid to reference to. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's interesting. The resonance, the Earth is continually resonating at what we call the Schumann resonance.
I've heard that word before, Schumann.
Yeah, it's approximately 7 hertz, and it changes, and as it changes, it affects everything from tides to. This has to do with the relation in the sun and the moon to the Earth, but once again, without getting too this resonance or this vibration of the Earth actually controls our biological clocks. This is why we have jet lag, because our body doesn't know where it is on the Earth. The minute we reconnect with the Earth, jet lag goes away.
Oh, so we pick up in Atlanta to Palm Springs, and then our body just doesn't know where we are.
Yeah, well, what it is that the body doesn't have anything to reference to, and so therefore it's in a constant state of stress. I'll give you some statistics. In the 50s and 60s, or prior to that, all the way back to the turn of the century, there was really only 3 reasons why somebody went to a practitioner. One was for an acute injury, the other one was for childbirth, and the third for some type of a infectious challenge, an infection of a type. Currently today, over 95% of practitioner visits are for a stress-related health disorder. This means that the body is stressed to a level that it cannot regain its own homeostasis or ability to heal itself. Something has changed in our environment other than just what we eat. And that's what we study. Once we realized, the founder of the company, it dawned on him one day what might be the effects on physiology, that our body is no longer connected to the Earth, and now what we've learned through just years of studies and information that's published. If you go to sleepgrounded.com and click on Science and Research, you can read about it. We're really seeing that there's a complete change in electrophysiology and neurology, and in all aspects of health are changed. We've measured everything from cortisol to blood volume pulse, or how hard your heart has to work to push blood. Blood vessels dilate, circulation comes back. There's numerous changes that take place.
So Dan, do we think then, or would the theory be that as we got our bodies off of the Earth, once we start building floors, I guess, in homes and stuff, and spend a lot more time indoors rather than poking cows and whatever else we did, right? And chase girls out in the Wild West. Then with the introduction of chemicals and, processed foods and maybe EMFs and blah, 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 and all of that, then that's added to the stress level on our bodies?
Right. And
is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Our bodies are stressed. Everybody is experiencing some type of stress, and stress can show its ugly face in many ways, depending on your genetics. But it all really comes down to, when you talk about stress, it's really, there's 2 issues here. One is the effect of electrical fields on the human body, because the human body is mineralized water, which makes it a good conductor. The second issue here is reconnecting the body with the Earth so that it can achieve homeostasis, and by being at the electrical potential of the Earth, normalize the immune response or inflammation.
So the Earth has an electrical resonance.
Correct.
That when we're connected to it with on our bare feet or leather or with some of your technology inside that we'll talk about. Now, what goes on when we're connected?
Well, it's important to understand that we were always connected to the Earth. It wasn't until the inventions of linoleums and plastics and carpet and these different types of synthetic materials that completely insulate you from that field that we started seeing these challenges.
Excuse me a second. I lost a little bit of volume on you. Are you doing anything differently?
Maybe did you lose me?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
There you go. Okay, now we're back. Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. So you're saying with linoleum and carpets and things like this, Dan Hall, that we began to lose more and more of this connection to this resonance to the Earth?
Yeah, we evolved connected to the Earth.
Yes.
And this disconnection is completely unnatural.
Would wood floors, in the old wood floors homes, like in the West that we see, would they still be somewhat connected?
No, not really.
No.
You need to be in physical contact with the Earth, as in the actual spot on the bottom of your foot is called kidney 1. It's a meridian point that is right behind the ball of your foot, or the pad that's just behind your toes. And that actually is the start of the meridian path of the body, and that, ironically, intelligent design would say, is the reason we were designed that way was that's where the pressure from our body is applied by our weight and on the feet, and that's directly the beginning of the meridian path where the electron flow takes place.
And then what happens now that if we do not have bare feet. That's why it's called barefoot technology. If we don't have bare feet on the Earth, other than say moccasins, leather, or leather shoes that are damp, then we're disconnected.
Yeah, you're disconnected from the Earth's electrical field, which puts your body in a state of stress.
Stress. Why? Because the body doesn't know where it is.
Right. It doesn't. It's important to understand that this rise and fall of this resonance of the Earth controls our biological clocks, and this is measured through a hormone that's called cortisol.
Yeah, cortisol.
Cortisol is a direct marker, as far as we know, the most reliable marker so far for stress. And we've already demonstrated through publications in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, which is on the website, that earthing normalizes cortisol. This is very dramatic.
So when we're in that normal resonance, that Schumann wave, which I say if we could picture it, does it go like up and down?
Yes.
And then when we're out of that, then the body doesn't keep the cortisol levels where they should be?
Well, the circadian rhythm of the Earth is what controls this rise and fall of the secretion
the sun
of the
and the
hormone.
moon and the stars and the whole thing.
Well, yeah, it's all how we evolved this way, and to disconnect us from this is just catastrophic. And so we've been, as a company, once we realized the science and the scientists seen this, they said we have a responsibility to make it practical to reconnect when it's generally impractical to do so, such as inside.
Yeah, we're talking with Dan Hall, eartheffects.net, and and his website is earthfx.net. And you can get a lot of the technical and the research and all that on sleepgrounded.com. If you have a question or a comment, and I'm sure you do, come in, 888-663-6386. Email patrick@oneradionetwork.com. So then, can we say then, ever since we humans decided that we were going to start building homes and put floors, then unknowingly we began to stress our body a bit.
Yes, that's exactly it, Patrick.
But then I guess even back then, if you talk, a couple hundred years ago or whatever, there wasn't nearly of the stressors on the body in the way of chemicals and electromagnetic fields and cell phones and everything else, right?
All of these stresses, whether they're electrical, physical, emotional, these become like pathogens to the body. And the body has to remove stress in one way or another, and it has to normalize itself. the FDA says it best. They say that you cannot claim that something cures something because the only thing that can cure anything is the human body itself.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is that when the body is tested in a state upon which it's not connected with the earth, it is no longer in its natural state. So therefore, the body has to be connected. There's a complete change in physiology. We've measured, the changes are dramatic.
Changes when you're not connected.
Correct, and changes when you reconnect.
Uh-huh.
It's almost instantaneous.
What kind of changes do you see?
Okay, well, here's the deal. We all hear about free radicals and the oxidative stress that our body encounters. This actual process, when you get to the crux of it, first of all, understand, Patrick, that we've now come to a conclusion scientifically as a country. 70% of the studies on disease at the universities currently today are on inflammation as the crux of those diseases.
Oh, yeah, we know that. Inflammation. Okay. It's amazing.
Right. Inflammation, we now know through our studies here, is an electron transfer disorder. What this means is the free radicals are positively charged molecules.
Mm-hmm.
They're an unstable molecule. They're missing a negative electron.
Mm-hmm.
These are released as a part of what is called the immune response. So your body detects a pathogen, releases free radicals, which are positively charged. And as we all know from magnets when we were a kid, positive and negatives attract. So it's going to strip a negative electron from that pathogen, therefore destroying the cellular structure of that pathogen, and then releasing it through the bloodstream so that it can be dissipated out of the body.
Okay.
Now, when the body is negative electron depleted or does not have enough negative electrons because we're not touching the earth anymore, then what happens is these free radicals will start attacking healthy tissue. The good example of it is osteoporosis. Astronauts will develop osteoporosis with time because their body's no longer in the electrical field of the earth, so they're negative electron depleted. Therefore, the body will attack the bone tissue or marrow to get the negative electrons it needs. This process,
let me stop you there. That's very, very, very interesting. So the earth produces negative electrons much like the ocean does, right?
Well, yeah, it's all one and the same.
All one and the same.
Right.
And then when we don't have the negative electrons because we're not grounded,
correct.
Then the body, then the positive, the free radicals, there's more than produced.
Yes, because they keep, now as they destroy a pathogen, that pathogen itself, if the body is short negative electrons, will become a free radical itself, and then you have this vicious cycle.
Now, wait a minute, I lost you there. Let me see so I'm a little slow.
That's all right.
So let's see. There's not enough negative electrons in the body because it's not on the earth, and then the free radicals, what happens?
Well, what happens is basically the free radicals are attacking healthy tissue because there's not enough negative electrons to subside them from this continual process. It happens instantaneously. It's very quick.
There's not enough negative electrons to balance them out?
Yeah, it's like calcification. Osteoporosis, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, all of these challenges are autoimmune diseases.
Right.
Autoimmune diseases are an electron transfer disorder. It means that we've identified this through thermographic images that free radicals, when you get down to this is not a biochemical issue. It's bioelectrical.
Yeah, it's electric, right.
Yes, and the body is positively charged. Here's a good analogy, best way I can describe it. I talked to some gentlemen who develop underground metal water pipes, steel pipes, that carry large volumes of water. And many homes are grounded to the water pipe. They're actually, the electrical system of the home is connected to the water pipe because it's a good conductor.
Oh, the electricians do that when they build the home.
Sometimes, generally, they should be using a dedicated ground rod, but many times they will clamp to a steel water pipe. Well, in speaking to these gentlemen, I happened to ask them, I don't know why I asked this question, because you would normally assume that a metal water pipe underground, because water is a good conductor, would be a good solid ground. And I asked him, I said, do you by chance ground those pipes? And he said, yes, not only do we ground the pipes, we actually apply a negative charge to the pipe, and this is called cathodic despondment. And what it means is it keeps the pipes from corroding. And when I heard this, I was speaking to a raw food guru, a great guy named David Wolf, and I said to David, are you getting it, David? Because he had just spent a bunch of time talking about calcification and how it's a positive charge that's causing this oxidative stress or calcification, if you'll call it that. And I said, do you get it, David? It's bioelectrical. They're applying a negative charge to this pipe so it doesn't oxidize. And he just looked at me, and we both had this astonishing moment where we realized that this whole issue of inflammation and chronic pain is really a bioelectrical challenge. It's not as much just what we eat. You have to eat good food. We know this.
Of course.
But it's bigger than that. This is why people who live in equatorial regions where they're barefoot all the time, the prominence of autoimmune challenges is almost non-existent.
Really?
Yeah. And they've always thought of that as, for instance, in Price Pottinger journal, Dr. Price, they always evaluated that as a challenge because of what they eat. That's a part of it. But nobody's really looked at this from the electrical standpoint, because these people that are barefoot in these regions, their skin, their teeth, their health is just amazing. And once again, animals that live outside don't generally go to the vet. If they live inside, they're sick all the time.
That's very interesting. Here's our phone number, 888-663-6386. And that's something that I mentioned to you on the phone the other day when we were chatting, that, I mean, if this is everything that your research is showing, then so much of the information that we've got up to this point, in humanity as far as health, and, the Western price stuff, everything, if it doesn't take this into consideration, well, then it's not really a very accurate picture of what the heck is going on. Right?
Well, nobody really put two and two together, but the studies that we have coming out in 2009 and the ones that are out already, when they're out for peer review, it's going to have a disruptive effect, because when you have to relook at physiology, I believe, and you have to relook at neurology and understand that the body was never tested in its normal state. If we see a change in hormone secretions, in blood vessels dilating, we've demonstrated through electroencephalograms a complete change in brainwave activity in the parasympathetic side, or your left side of the brain. And the numerous other aspects we're going to be showing, such as heart rate variability, even viscosity of blood changes. There's a complete autonomic shift in the nervous system and a physiological change which shows that what's happening is the body now has something to reference to, so it can normalize the systems and go back to healing. Look at animals who live in the wild. If they get a cut, they don't get inflammation. This is something nobody's ever tied together. They don't get inflammation. It heals over very rapidly, and you don't see a swollen wound with pus and these types of things. It's just very uncommon, because their immune systems are so strong, because they're negatively charged once again.
Oftentimes I see my golden retriever, we live here in the country, will dig sort of a hole. And then just lie in that, and no matter what the weather is, and it's just so interesting. And I always figured that she just knew what she was doing. Obviously.
Yeah, when they get sick, they'll dig. Generally, a dog will dig a hole in the earth, or if they're going to, if they're very physically ill and they're looking at passing, they think they're going to die, they will actually dig a hole in the ground.
And then people think they're digging their graves, right? It's just
they're actually trying to get closer to the moist soil, because they feel different.
Here's an email from Larry in Omaha. Please ask Dan how we haven't got to it yet, but that's good. We'll go there. How being grounded affects electromagnetic fields, cell phone towers, cell phones, and satellite, and all those kinds of things. Thanks, Larry.
Well, when I speak publicly, I use a body voltage meter.
A body voltage meter?
Yeah, where I'll actually measure electrical fields on the body. When your body is, because we are mineralized water, when your body is exposed to, say, 60 hertz voltage or different fields, the electrons in your body now start resonating at that frequency. This is something especially when you're dealing with AC voltage, this is something that your body is not. You know, we don't build homes under power lines anymore. And the reason that there's a third hole in the sockets in our wall is to protect the appliance or the instruments in your home from electrical noise. And the way this happens is the earth is so vast in size that when you ground something, you're applying the earth's voltage to that or putting that item at the same electrical potential as the earth. Patrick, here's the best way I can describe it. If I took a glass of boiling water and I was to throw it on you, theoretically it would burn you. But if you were sitting in the ocean and I threw it, it's going to dissipate into the water and probably not burn you. When you are now a part of the earth or connected to the earth physically, you're now at the vastness of the earth. So all electrical fields are dissipated instantly. And this is demonstrated. I do this in large groups where I'll hold an extension cord and somebody will be grounding their body on the products that we provide, and then they'll touch my hand. As soon as they touch my hand, the voltage drops. Because you cannot, you're now at the electrical potential of the earth. So it's so vast in size, any electrician can tell you that's why you ground the home, is to protect, why your lights don't go up and down and what have you. And so when your body is at the electrical potential of the earth, as far as I know, it's the only thing that will protect you from electrical fields.
So when you're walking outside on bare feet, or you're on one of your mats or sleeping in some of your sheets that we'll talk about, the electromagnetic fields, has this been proven that they do not affect us at all?
Right, because you're now the vastness of the earth. So
because the earth is your ground.
You're grounded.
Uh-huh.
You're grounded.
Uh-huh.
You just like your television, and this is the thing I always tell people. This is the product itself is a conduit to reconnect you to the earth. It's no different than laying on the earth outside. It's just, like I couldn't get my wife to do that. I mean, unless it was the beach.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to go outside and sleep every night?
Right, especially if you live back east or something. Mm-hmm. It's a little chilly there right now.
Yeah.
Now, so you need to be connected, and now that we know this, and it affects sleep. We haven't even got into the issues of sleep. 70% of America doesn't sleep well at night, but they think it's the type of mattress they have. It has nothing to do with that. Your body, I can take your bedroom, ironically, your sleeping area of your home has one of the highest areas of electrical fields than anywhere in the house. Now, this is where we're trying to sleep. The average person, if I measure their body voltage, will measure between 3 to 5 volts in their sleeping area. This is because of Romex wires in their walls of their house, the lamps, the alarm clocks, the sleep apnea machines, the computers, the everything that's around your bed is producing electrical fields. When they're off, when they turned on, they produce electromagnetic fields. And these will affect we now know the body's electrical. And so if you don't build homes under power lines anymore, the idea here is to just protect your body as well as you can. If you're grounded, no need for worry. You're now grounded the same way your television is, so it's not affected by electrical fields.
You had mentioned this volt thing. What kind of instrument measures that, and can people do this to measure what kind of volts they got going on in their body?
Yeah, the Radio Shack has voltage meters.
Right.
There's you can just take the black terminal on a voltage meter, set it on volts AC, ground that to a ground, and then hold the red terminal, and it will measure the voltage in your body.
It really?
Yeah.
So you take the black and you ground that. How do you ground that? Just in the plug?
Yeah, you actually
stick it in there?
Or use one of our units that we have that actually plugs into the ground in the wall. But you can do it either way.
Uh-huh. On the mat that I have standing on right now, I can utilize that to check my voltage.
Yes, but when you're standing on it, you're not going to read any because you're grounded.
Okay, so when I'm grounded, then you do a voltage meter. You got no voltage going through you?
Right. Well, you're going to have the electrical field of the earth. Here's the best way I can put it. Positive and negative attracts. Negative to negative pushes. So when your body is connected to the earth, you're now at the electrical potential of the earth. So instead of your body resonating at 60 hertz AC, the electrons in your body, now the earth is protecting your body. Somewhat of what you might call a Faraday cage.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
It's actually just now the Earth's electrical potential is pushing those fields back, not your body.
I see. Now, I've often heard that 60 hertz, which is what our electrical system is, of course, is like one of the most unhealthy kind of resonance or frequencies you can get. Is that true?
Yeah, it's disturbing our physiology, absolutely. The more, and if people wonder why they can't sleep at night, there's a variety of reasons, but we now know that when the body is grounded, sleep changes dramatically. Mm-hmm. It's so dramatic that if you read the testimonials on the website, it has a profound effect on people's lives and their health. Obviously, sleep is an important aspect in your body being able to recover.
Yeah, a lot of stuff goes on. So we'll dip into the products, and so not to leave people in suspense too long, and then we'll go back to some more of the technology. So what you have is, as far as I know, you have literally, folks, you should check these out. They have sheets that are very beautiful, and they have these, I guess it's silver thread kind of through it, and you actually put the sheets into a little a device that plugs into the wall, and you're sleeping and you're grounded.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, the home is grounded.
Uh-huh.
As long as your home is grounded.
As long as your home is grounded.
Now, prior to 1960, your home may not be. In that particular case, you would actually use a dedicated ground rod, which would go either through a hole in the wall that you put in and install it, or you run it through your window. But most homes that are grounded have an electrical ground that's already there.
But a lot of the older ones maybe don't?
Correct.
Uh-huh.
So if your home was built prior to 1970, you're going to want to have it checked to make sure that you have a real ground. So
that's one of the products then is the sheets that you have. And then something that I'm standing on right now with my bare feet is a pad that you can either put on your desk or on your below, right? And as long as you're touching it with your bare skin, then you ground it?
Right, preferably the bottom of your feet or the palms of your hands, because that there's less resistance in that part of your body, and it will actually conduct electrons without moisture. Let me say, though, Patrick, that for anybody that's listening, the most important time to be reconnected with the earth is when you're sleeping.
I would think. Yeah.
It is number one. It's imperative. That's when your body normalizes. That's when it heals. That's when you're getting your rest. That's the most important time. Obviously, working around computers and those types of things, and we now know that your body should be grounded as much as possible. So, but to start with, if you can get 8 hours when you're not doing anything that you're just sleeping, which you normally do anyways, we have sheeting fabrics that are woven with antimicrobial, antifungal, pure silver yarn. That's another important aspect of it, is that now you have an antibacterial yarn in there because it's pure silver, which makes a great conductive grid. This is crisscrossed throughout the fabric. It took us millions of dollars to develop this sheeting fabric
because you had to wash it and everything, so you had to be pretty clever.
Well, yeah, it was actually designing. Well, each line in the fabric is 64 strands of pure silver. It just takes a while to develop that. It's never been made before. Now, this fabric is just like sheets that you have. They're a 50 cotton, 50 poly sheeting fabric, and they go either at the end of your bed, what we call a bed pad, and then it comes up to about your knees, and it wraps around the end of the bed, and you just put your legs on it and go to sleep. Put your feet on it. The other aspect is a sheet set. And the sheet set is a bottom sheet, top sheet, and pillowcases. And the sheet sets are like cocooning. And then there is a recovery bag, travel recovery bag, which is like a sleeping bag you take with you on the road.
Oh, and you could just jump in the sleeping bag at a hotel and jump in. That's pretty cool.
Right. And then we have the pet beds, which are really, really key. Animals that live inside all the time definitely get inflammation if you can. Animals love them. They love the beds. They are attracted to them. It's really funny what happens.
If you're in an apartment or something, I bet it'd be really
nice. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's just so imperative for the animals that they have that connection, for us as well. But so we've provided a pet bed. And then we have the desk pad, which reconnects you either with the palms of your hands or the bottoms of your feet while you're working at your computer station or just at an office environment.
Now, does the research show then that I would assume then a guy like me who's around a lot of equipment, like I got this whole big board in front of me right now with 3 computers, as long as I'm grounded, then I got protection from all the juju from that?
Yep.
Well, that's
You
great.
are now no different than a television that's grounded and no longer has static in the picture. And if you can, and I know your listeners get this. Anybody who's listening to what we're saying would have an innate knowledge in the back of their mind saying, you know what, that makes sense. We need to be connected. We now know through our studies, though, and some that are coming out in 2009, that this is vital. This isn't just something that you can take lightly. I can pretty strongly say that from what I've experienced and what I've seen, is that your body cannot achieve homeostasis unless it is grounded.
Well, that's a pretty amazing statement there. If that's accurate. You know what I wonder? I was thinking about today. People, when they go out camping, they go in sleeping bags and all that, and they just say they feel so good and they slept so well and they were on the earth and all that. But you must get some effect from the earth even though your skin's not touching it, huh?
Yes, you're right, Patrick, the closer you can get to it, the better.
I would think, yeah.
The further away you are,
the worse. Yeah.
The worse.
So if you're like on the 20th floor of some apartment, that's got to be pretty tough on the body.
Yeah, and then you get these, you talk to people that live on 20, 30, 40 stories up, and they're not, in most cases, they'll tell you they're not doing very well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so correlated, it would amaze you. And I've seen this thousands of times. You have to remember, and this technology is used by some of the highest profile athletes in the world. We have studied so many things, Patrick, and you've experienced it. You know what it's like to sleep grounded.
But I tell you what, it's amazing the difference in the amount of dreams, right? And the dream is a much more deeper state. I know that for sure.
Yeah, if you read the sleep study that we did, a double-blind sleep study with 60 people on our website, you'll read that these statistics were alarming. I mean, people have slept incredibly well. Everybody's searching for a new mattress, and they all think that's what's going to make the difference. You could take one of these bed pads and connect your body to the earth while you sleep, and your body's going to go into a true state of sleep that you haven't. Even if you have people tell you, "I sleep great," they do not know what good sleep is.
Because it must be the depth of sleep if you're grounded. Then
it's absolutely amazing. It's something that everybody will recognize, and it's something that you just have to experience. But you know what, Patrick? If anybody listening out there can remember a time when they were laying on the beach and they fell asleep very quickly,
right,
and woke up with a big drool spot on their towel.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but this actually happens to most of us. If you can remember how you felt, you can experience that feeling in bed at night.
Well, I'll tell you my experience, and it's interesting because I have had a sleep issue for like 20 years, and I mean waking up 2 and 3 and 4 times a night for
That's
20
common.
years. I mean, that's
common,
just,
Patrick.
it's amazing. I mean, I fall asleep but then wake up. And I've only had the sheets like 2 weeks, and it has not at all helped me to sleep through the night. However, it has cut down the amount of times I wake up, and then the dreaming is radically better. And I work with my dreams. I've dreamed, I have a stack of dream journals. I've done it my whole life, and I'm really aware of my dreams and the soul travel experiences. But I'm noticing that even when I do still wake up, because I'm still working on some physical things, that I'm still getting deeper sleep when I'm there, Mm-hmm. And I feel good about it because I feel like this is going to help me to get to the point where I go through the night because I'm able to heal. Of all these years of waking up, I know that it's been a big challenge in my body because you hear that we really need to sleep, 6 hours straight to get some real healing.
Absolutely.
Is that true?
Yes. The more, everybody's body is different.
Right.
Some people need more sleep. I had a few doctors at the conference I was at recently came up to me after they slept the night grounded and again said, I slept 10, one said 11 hours. I haven't slept that many hours since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just tell them, well, your body really needed it. Your body's recognizing what it needs. And once again, now the stress is alleviated so your body can completely relax. And this was demonstrated in electroencephalograms where we looked at a complete change in parasympathetic brainwave activity, that being the part of your nervous system that is your relaxed, mundane period. That's when your parasympathetic kicks in. And your sympathetic, obviously, is when you're excited or you're pumped up about something. But we saw a complete change at the point of contact with the Earth on parasympathetic activity, which affects melatonin, cortisol. A lot of times people don't sleep well because they're, like, for instance, in the Tour de France, the guys use this technology specifically to normalize their cortisol because their cortisol, that's about that's one of the strongest tests of endurance there is. It's like running 3 marathons a day for 22 days straight. And these guys, all cortisol would normally be out of whack. Well, their sleep was dramatically improved. Their wound healing was vastly accelerated. It completely eliminated tendinitis. That's never happened in the history of the Tour de France.
And they by sleeping on the sheets.
Yes, but they also used clinical patching systems where they patch the body, and once again, those aren't available to the public yet. But all you have to do is get reconnected when you sleep at night, and your body now can achieve a true homeostasis, and you'll see the people out there right now, Patrick, they're listening, they have some type of inflammation challenge.
Most of us do, right?
Most of everybody does.
Yeah.
And the truth is that if you look at cows in the natural existence that are in a field, you don't see arthritic cows, okay? The reality is that if you can get reconnected with the Earth, if you have inflammation, we've seen it over and over and over again. And I go to the website, go to sleepgrounded.com, click on science and research, and look at one of the first studies is inflammation as measured by heat through infrared thermography. And we did over 100 of these. I think there's about 20 of the case studies in there.
Also use the thermal imaging.
Yeah, and every single one of them, it reduced inflammation and pain.
Just by one night's sleep?
Yeah, some cases, 4 nights. Everybody's a little bit different. If the inflammation is really bad, people will notice it. Generally, if they reconnect, they'll notice it within 45 minutes to an hour.
Huh. Is that generally, Dan Hall, a time when the body will get rid of some of the inflammation when we're sleeping?
Yes.
Is that the time when we always hear this idea the body repairs itself?
Yes, that's usually when the body normalizes, is when it tries to.
It
really cannot if it's disconnected. If it's sitting there in a stress state, you may what you've been used to sleeping good, or somebody feels they're sleeping well, their body's really not in a true state of, they would be even more enhanced if they were connected.
Yeah. Here's an email from Ed in Los Angeles. Hi, Ed. Thanks. He wants to know then, would it stand to reason that being on a pad or so when you eat or when you do yoga or something would also be a benefit?
Absolutely.
I would think.
Yeah, no different. It's important for everybody to keep in mind that are listening out there that there's no difference between laying on the sheet or laying on the ground outside.
It's exactly the same?
The product doesn't do anything. The product is simply a conduit to the Earth to make it practical inside your home to reconnect. And so, actually, your food's going to digest better. Digestion changes, for instance, IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, that's an inflammatory challenge. And most of the challenges we deal with nowadays have to do with inflammatory response and overactive immune response.
You know what's so interesting, too, over the last 20, 30 years, all this different inflammation and stuff that's really coming out to the forefront because of the awareness and the consciousness, Dan Hall, is that since this has never been taken into effect, really, except till the research you guys are doing, that they had to blame it on something, right? So they've got all these different reasons, and we don't really know, do we, right now in December 2008, of how dramatic an effect of not being grounded is on the body because it's just so new.
Well, the correlation, the study of the relationship between chronic inflammation and a disease has attracted attention of investigators all around the world.
Huh.
As I was saying, there's over 14 categories searched, resulted over in 70,000 citations, with the largest number being citations for cancer. Now, we're not sitting here saying that earthing's going to cure cancer by any means, okay? But what I'm saying is that chronic infection has been suspected but not proven for many years. In a 1986 study, for instance, Patrick, For example, one researcher compared the inflammatory response to the wound healing response, saying tumors were wounds that did not heal. A lot of people under this belief, we're not making any claims here, but research connecting inflammation with chronic disease was given a dramatic impetus as a result of a series of studies by Ridker and colleagues at Harvard Medical School, suspecting that inflammation is involved in the pathogenesis of cardiovascular events. These researchers measured the levels of inflammatory markers in prospective controlled studies amongst 28,000, I think it's 28,000 or more healthy postmenopausal women over a mean follow-up period of 3 years. And they assessed the risk of cardiovascular events associated with a variety of established inflammatory markers. They were looking at C-reactive proteins and different cortisol and these types of things. And these results are published information, and they're now, it's pretty much being understood that inflammation is the crux of these challenges.
Yeah.
And depending on your genetics, it just shows its ugly face in many ways.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of research here, One Radio Network, Dan, on oral pathology after I had a thermal imaging thing on my whole body, and I said, wow, there's some stuff going on in my jaw, and been doing the whole thing for the last couple of months and really digging into it. And they even have a whole section on the website. And it's all about inflammation, right? And they can actually see inflammation like in a woman's breast up to 10 years ahead of time. But so I guess there's no telling if someone was grounded, even with the oral pathology, if how that would affect or not affect the coming inflammation.
Well, I welcome somebody to study that. We have variety of case studies going on in different areas.
You guys are doing a lot of research.
Yeah, we're an incredible amount of research, and we provide these products. If you, all I will say to anybody that's listening, and this is, you believe it or not from a biased standpoint, I have seen dramatic changes in people's lives. Take a moment, read what people have to say that have experienced it. There's we put some we're donating this to autistic children. We've seen changes in them. We're donating.
Oh wow, that's
so
great.
We're arthritic people will tell you. I mean, I've seen things, Patrick, that are just absolutely amazing. And a 90-year-old man, I remember one guy, 90 years old, could barely get off the couch from rheumatoid arthritis unless somebody helped him. Within 6 months, he was gardening and taking 1 mile walks. Now, for somebody like that, and this is, I can think of just time after time after time of people who can get back to normal if they just get grounded. And the company says, look, it's quite noticeable. I mean, we tell you to use the product, reconnect for 2 months. If you can't go outside consistently and you can't sleep on the ground outside, get grounded, give it 2 months. If you don't notice a change in your, keep in mind that inflammation can be allergies, it can be asthma, it can be, there's just so many different ways that people don't correlate these challenges with inflammation. But if you're chronic pain and your sleep doesn't get better, just return it for a complete refund.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah, and the company just, all we ask is that you try it for a couple months because everybody's a little bit different. And so you really have nothing to lose. All I can tell you is to try it, and then because either the people that are listening, or someone they know or they love dearly is suffering from some type of inflammation based on statistics that we know, majority of the people out there, because we know now through our science that unless you're connected, you're going to have some type of inflammation.
And we'll tell you in a second how you can get some, and we worked it out, Dan. We can get through me we can get yourself a 10% discount on a pad or sheets if you want to try. Here's another email. It doesn't say from whom. It says, how helpful would, say, 1 hour barefoot on the beach be? Would we need to live our lives grounded to see any dramatic difference? Good question.
That's a good question. If you did an hour a day, barefoot in the sand, and walked around the beach an hour a day, it would be incredibly beneficial.
It's got to help for what?
No, absolutely. They'll notice a change in their demeanor. Everybody correlates that feeling they have when they go to the beach and their feet are in the sand with the air and the sound of the waves.
Right.
Well, there's no doubt that is part of it. But we now know physiologically there's something taking place when you reconnect. But I will say this. We should be grounded as much as possible. So you really want to feel a change, sleep on the sand at night in the beach, or reconnect in your bed in your home. Experience that full 8 hours of restorative sleep and just see the change in yourself physically and mentally.
You know, we've done some shows with a lady up in Canada by the name of Magda Havis, and she's done quite a bit of research on electrical pollution in the home, and just with the wiring going through the walls that has not been through a what do they call that thing in the metal pipe? Which is a commercial code to do it. If they're not encapsulated in this metal pipe, and I'm spacing out the conduit, right? If in most homes they just put the wires right through, you know.
Yeah, Romex wires.
Wires, you know.
Yes.
And it's amazing how people's blood sugar is affected through this. I mean, some of the studies. I could send you a link to her stuff, and it's pretty amazing.
No, we're about ready to release through the studies that we've done showing normalization of glucosamine levels. This is big time stuff.
Just when you get
heart rate variability changes dramatically. That's really big stuff. I mean, some of the science that we've shown to peers for peer review it's in statistical analysis right now absolutely is jaw dropping. We now know, and it will become common knowledge very soon. And people like you, Patrick, that are bringing this to the forefront ahead of time, your listeners can feel very privileged that they were able to get this information. This is published information in different journals of bodywork and movement therapies journals, in the Journal of Alternative Complementary Medicine. Dr. James Oshman, who's one of the leaders in energy medicine, has quoted earthing and grounding the human body as the most exciting science that he's ever seen in his entire career.
Really?
This is a gentleman who is literally looked to in a variety of different modalities to give his opinion, and he will tell you. And as a matter of fact, maybe we get him on the show sometime to speak to you.
Sure.
He'll if you ask him, he'll tell you that it's literally the most profound science he's ever seen.
Well, it's exciting stuff for me. I'm very jazzed about moving forward and experiencing more in my life day in, day out. And I can tell you, along with the sleep, having this pad at my feet when I'm working in this room with all this electrical equipment, I could tell the difference the first day, and it was dramatic. I just felt more grounded. You know what I mean? I just felt more okay. It was, I couldn't believe that the computers were affecting me the way they were, and all this equipment that I have, the radio equipment.
Yeah, you're really,
I'm right in it, man.
You know what, Patrick?
Can't believe this stuff.
I have a friend who's a sound engineer.
Yeah.
And he said that when he comes back in from working 12 hours in the studio, that his wife can smell it on him.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, he's convinced of it. That literally, because probably worse than computers, but he's just, and he wondered, and he doesn't, he's great now because he's grounded. But before I met, talked to him about this, and I learned about this, he used to always say he just never slept well. Now he sleeps fantastic. So
it's amazing. And I'm in a straw bale home with a wood burning stove, and I don't care if it's 60 degrees in here. I'm taking my shoes off, man. And you get used to it. It's good. I think it's good for you. You get a little circulation going.
Well, women's hands and feet very often get cold, and that's a circulatory challenge. And I will tell you that if they get grounded, that goes away. That their circulation will come back, and it happens very quickly.
So here's what we do. If we've worked out a deal, and we're going to start selling. We're going to have a link right on OneRadioNetwork.com. We'll have it up by the first of the year, and you can just go there. But in the meantime, for those of you listening live and checking out this podcast before January 1, which is only 2 days from now when we're doing this live on a Monday night, you can go to earthfx.net, right?
Well, if you're going to use the code that you set up, then you probably want to go to sleepgrounded.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sleepgrounded.com. And I'll put that underneath the text until we get our link. Sleepgrounded.com.
www.sleepgrounded.com.
Grounded.com.
And then in the purchase process, if you decide that you want to get grounded, which I hope everybody does, I believe the code that we set up for you is
P1.
Yeah.
P-O-N-E.
Yeah, P1.
Or P-O-N-E, which is...
Yeah, and that will get them a 10% break on the price for any of your listeners, Patrick.
Oh, 10%. That's great.
Yeah, and any little bit to help nowadays.
Oh, sure. So it's just earthgrounded.com. And if you purchase, if you want to get a grounding mat or a mat for the desk, which they're the same thing, right, Dan?
Right, but once again, anybody who asks me personally, I will always tell them,
go for the sheets.
Go for, what you can, if it's not going to burden you financially, of course the sheets or the recovery bag are the best. But a lot of people will just, if you can get the desk pad, that's great. But once again, it's sleep. It's always about
the sleep.
It's about reconnecting when you're sleeping. That's
okay, and the code, the code is P1 or PONE, and it's earthgrounded.net.
Sleepgrounded.
I'm sorry, sleepgrounded.com. Yeah, I wasn't even close to that, G. I was close. I get so excited.
You gotta get grounded.
Yeah, sleepgrounded.com, and the code would be P1, PONE, and you get 10%. Here's another email question. Let's see, from Val. Do you make shoe inserts, or would this not work? That's interesting.
Yeah, that we're working on that right now. We're actually working on flip-flops. If you were inside, you can tell your listener if she was inside, it doesn't matter whether she's barefoot or wearing shoes, she's insulated. If she's outside, you would need to actually be making physical contact, or the shoe surface, the sole of the shoe would need to be conductive, a conductive fiber like carbon fiber or something like that.
So shoes, so totally leather shoes are the only kind of shoes that keep us connected?
Well, leather-soled shoes, when soaked with sweat, become a very good conductor.
Huh? Like moccasins?
Well, actually, here's a good one, Patrick. Let's think about Eskimos. Eskimos eat whale blubber, but yet the prominence of autoimmune challenges is very rare. Why? I'm talking real Eskimos that live on the ice. I'm not talking about ones that live in conventional homes,
right?
But ones that live in igloos still. They're, a lot of people relate, well, they're eating fish, they're getting omegas. That's good. But we now know that, part of that has to do with the fact that they're in leather moccasins. They're soaked with water, great conductor, and so therefore they're always connected to the earth, and they're sleeping on the ice.
Oh, the ice counts? I mean, that's
oh yeah. That's ocean is one of the best places you can be grounded, because salt water is such an incredible conductor.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so get in the ocean, get on the beach. Just get barefoot. Join the barefoot revolution is what I call it.
Is that negative ions we hear about in the beach? Is that so? Well, yeah, I guess you answered that before, because the Earth is part of the ocean. You're getting negative ions, right?
Absolutely. Right. You really are talking about here is free electrons from the Earth, and they're abundant, and it's an unlimited reservoir. You could not, everybody tells you to drink juices and eat foods that are high in antioxidants. What the doctors really mean is you need negative electrons. You could not inject blueberry juice into your arm and get anywhere near the negative electrons you get from connecting with the Earth.
Negative electrons. Now, tell me, like a green drink or juice, how is that giving us negative electrons?
Well, your body has to process that,
right.
And then it will actually metabolically process the food, and it'll eventually turn into negative electrons, which will be distributed to sites of pathogen, or once again, where your body needs it. And it's great. You've got to eat good food. But if you're suffering from an inflammatory challenge, you need to be grounded. You need to get that negative charge, because you've got positive charge in your body. That's what's causing it. We know this undisputably. The science shows it. Go look at it. Anybody who's out there suffering right now, there is something to help them. They just need to get grounded.
Somebody was telling me that our friend David Wolf now, when he goes out and talks and all that, he brings his mat and stands on his mat. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. If you ask David's very fanatical about this.
He's a wild guy, man.
Well, David's familiar with the science. That's why he's so passionate about it, because it's about reconnecting not only spiritually, but physically with the Earth.
Yeah, well, I'm not giving my sheets away. I'll guarantee you that, man. It's not going to happen. And then I just think the whole thing, I mean, it's so simple, but it's a beautiful, because the science is there and the common sense is there to say, well, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny, Patrick. I think it was Einstein that said, it's the simplest things in life that are the greatest. And if at first people don't find it to be absurd, you probably don't have anything to begin with.
Uh-huh. Of course. We're always, the people on the forefront are always, thinking when they're crazy, right? I mean, it's just the way it's always been, and
it always will be
on planet Earth. So, are the minerals then essentially more negative as well? Negative juice to the body, minerals?
Well, I personally believe from what we're seeing in the science that our bodies were never meant to take in massive quantities of compounded minerals and vitamins. Okay?
Yeah, right.
It's just not the way we were designed. Once again, this is my opinion from what I've experienced. And what I believe what happens is when we induce massive quantities of compounded minerals and vitamins, like some people do, that in essence it can have a negative effect. This can cause more free radicals to be released because the body identifies those massive quantities as pathogens because it's not used to inducing that type of regimen on itself, and
right.
And therefore that can be, I believe, destructive. I think you need to reconnect with the earth, and you need to eat good raw foods and good healthy vegetables and foods from the earth.
Yeah.
Reconnect with the earth through your food and physically, and you should see a big change in your health.
Let's see. Here's another. As long as we're getting a few other emails, we'll stay
Sure.
here for a second.
Sure.
Patrick at oneradionetwork.com. Also, boy, phones were quiet. You guys were lots of you out there. 888-663-6386. Here's from Steve. What about sleeping with magnets under your mattress? You know anything about magnets?
Well, my understanding with magnets is that it controls and I'm not an expert in magnets.
It's a North Pole magnet, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to control the speed of the circulation of your blood.
Mm-hmm.
Earthing doesn't affect that in any way. You can be grounded and use magnetics if you choose to. I don't knock anything out there.
Sure.
But I do know that you can be grounded with it, yes.
I'll tell you a quick story that has to do with the Schumann wave that I just thought amazing because it just happened yesterday. I have an opportunity to get myself a hold and use for an extended period of time a machine that's called a biophoton machine, which was created by Fritz Albert Popp of Germany, and it's all about electron. It's lasers, and it's all about light, Dan Hall. So it's the idea that you put this thing on your body, in certain parts of your body or your jaw. I really got it from my jaw and the teeth thing I'm working on, and it actually, with a dark field microscope thing, in your blood, after you sit on this thing for 10 minutes, your blood gets just like it's supposed to be in 10 minutes.
Right.
And it puts the little cells. Now, here's the cool thing why I'm bringing this up, why the connection. With the machine comes a ring. And this ring plugs into the machine, and they suggest that you put this ring over your neck. You know why? Because it's a Schumann wave, and it puts it puts your body into a grounded position so it'll heal better. And I thought that was fascinating because that's what came with the machine.
Yeah, Dr. Dietrich Kessler, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, Dr. James Oshman, Dr. Jeffrey Spencer, all of them just recently spoke on the topic of earthing at the Anti-Aging Conference in Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Approximately 6,000 practitioners there, and there was an entire day that was devoted to energy medicine. First time they've ever done this at this conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there and witnessed it, and Stephen Sinatra, Dr. Sinatra, who's a cardiologist, pretty famous.
Yeah, I've heard of him, yeah.
Got up and said that he said, I want to state, before I get started here, I want to state that last week I spent with some of my colleagues, there was about a dozen colleagues. We did a dark field test on our blood before and after earthing, and I'm here to tell you that I personally witnessed ketchup turn to red wine.
Really?
Earthing completely changes the blood viscosity. So now he's doing case studies, and they're putting together, along with some very prominent doctors, which I won't mention any names at this point, but they'll be releasing this information in 2009. It doesn't take very long for them to do these case studies. But they were also amazed to see that the ones that ate massive quantities of nutraceuticals, their blood was not cleaned up. And they asked, well, I slept grounded last night. Why didn't mine? And the first thing our founder said was, well, what kind of nutraceuticals did you pump down yourself this morning? Because, once again, if the body is grounded to the earth, it's going to normalize. And they saw a complete change in because, once again, it's electrical. So you have your white blood cells and your red blood cells. They're flowing in the right areas, so the blood's all. It just changes the consistency of the blood and allows it to flow smoother, and that's what causes plaque. Is it positively charged, in your veins. It's calcification.
Calcification.
It's all the same thing.
And just as a sidelight for you Fritz Albert Popp fan, the fellow that created this machine that I have, he was done extensive research and has proven that when you take in, as Dan, I don't know what he meant really about nutraceuticals, but when you take in nutrients that are from anything but a once living source, they actually can damage or will damage the DNA. Fritz Albert Popp proved that. So you don't want to do like these synthetic vitamins and this, this make-believe food and nutrients, because it could actually cause harm. Let's take this phone call here. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Patrick, this is Ben D'Agostino, Albany, New York. My question for Dan is this. With the bed sheet, do you sleep on it or put it on top of you?
You put it on top of the bottom sheet that you normally sleep on, and you want your feet and legs laying on it, or if you do the whole sheet set, your whole body laying on it. You need to be making physical contact with the sheeting fabric.
So when if you get the whole sheet thing, Ben, you get the bottom sheet is the only one grounded, connected literally, but then the top one also has the silver going through it, so it all just kind of touches. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. As long as the silver's touching each other, it develops a conductive grid.
And then the same way with the pillow, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're sleeping on one and you got one on top of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do the whole sheet set, if you do the bed pad, that goes at the bottom portion of the bed, and it would come up to just above your knees, depending on how large you are.
Got any idea price-wise?
Yeah, they range anywhere from $170 up to sheet sets that run as much as $575 for a king.
Okay.
So it's not too expensive. And most people can afford it. And I tell you what, if you're not sleeping well and you've got inflammatory challenges, which most of the people listening do, whether they want to admit it or not, it's going to change that dramatically. And I don't believe you can put a price on that.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome.
Okay, here's another email. This one from, I would like to get the name Ted. Is the bed pads as good as the sheets? Which to buy? Good question. That was my first question when I called your office to purchase mine a couple weeks ago.
If you can afford it, I would recommend the sheet set. Here's the reason I say this.
Okay.
Is that there's two things happening. Let's say that you have a bad shoulder. Well, when the shoulder lays on the sheets, it doesn't take very long, more than a few minutes, even though it may not be detectable for you personally, there will be a moisture that develops. When doctors use an EKG machine, they put patches on you. These patches have gel on them. The reason is that they need to make the epidermis conductive.
Yeah, it's got to be connected some way.
But what's interesting is that when you're laying on these sheets, now you're having not only global systemic effect, which means that electrons are flowing through the meridian path at the bottom of your feet and the palms of your hands, but not only that, you're going to have localized treatment as well, because the area, if you have a bad shoulder or a bad neck, when that area gets moist, which, once again, even though you may not be able to detect it, in a couple minutes of laying on those sheets, moisture develops on the epidermis, and it's enough to conduct. So you're going to have not only global systemic effects, but cocooning yourself. When it comes to electromagnetic fields, now you're completely shielded versus being... best way to describe it is this. There's, once again, keep in mind, Patrick and listeners, there's two aspects to this. One is reconnecting to the frequency of the earth to normalize your physiology. The other is putting your body at the electrical potential of the earth to protect it from electrical fields. When you are covered completely in a sheet set, now the electrical fields are dissipating through the outside of the sheets versus the outside of your body. Keep in mind, as long as you're touching the earth or you're making physical contact, it's not going to disturb your physiology inside your body, but the electricity will be dissipated on the outside of your body, whereas if you're in a recovery bag or the sheet set, the electricity is dissipating on the outside of the fabric.
Excellent.
Okay?
This is Doug now in, he doesn't say where he's from, but I always like to say where. I live in an old home that I found out is not grounded. It's a very old home. How does it work? I'm just paraphrasing here to get through it. How does it work when you use a grounding rod, and is it difficult? Could I do that myself?
And if you have access, we give you a 15-foot line from the ground rod. You want to put it into moist soil. Mm-hmm. If you look on the website and you go into products, you'll see an option for either an earth tap. This means that you're plugging into the wall, or a ground rod. If you know the home's not grounded, you need to get a dedicated ground rod. you can provide that. We provide it with the product. You would simply put it into moist soil, not in a planter. It has to be the earth, preferably where something grows. If you live in an area that's extremely dry soil, it's not going to be as conductive. Normal ground rods for homes are driven 4 feet into the earth because once you get 4 feet down, you're going to run into moist soil. Moist soil is very conductive. But as long as something like grass or soil where there's bushes growing, anything like that, you simply push the ground rod into the ground. There's 2 rods. They're stainless steel. They go in about maybe 12 inches, 10 to 12 inches. And that's more than enough. And then, like I said, as long as it's somewhat moist soil where something's growing. You can run the line in a window temporarily. Once you experience this, you'll never want to sleep without it. At that point, then you can either have an electrician put in a dedicated ground rod, or you yourself can just like installing cable, you would drill a hole through it, run the wire into your home, and seal off the hole and connect it to
How do you now, what I have now is a very simple little snap. You snap it on the side of the sheet behind it, and you can't see it, and it plugs right into the wall. The 2 green light comes on, so you know you're grounded. How does it work when you use a ground rod? How does it get into the mattress?
Same way.
I mean, to the sheet.
There'll be a ground rod with a wire then there'll be an extension, another 15 feet to give you a total of 30 feet to make it from your bed to wherever, even if you were on a second story, you would still be able to get to ground. And
so it plugs in the same way.
It plugs in the same, yeah, absolutely. It's very easy. It's very self-explanatory once you look at it. There's instructions in the box.
Now, you mentioned the moist soil. You know, it's interesting. What about people live in the desert, like here in Texas? Gosh, it hasn't rained in a year, for goodness sake. Would you still be grounded?
Yeah, if you can get deep enough, or very often there will be an area that generally if you're in the desert and you never water anything outside at all, and you have real dry soil, you would need to get down into the moist soil. So a copper ground rod, which electricians install, would go down about 4 feet, and that would be plenty and deep enough to get to the soil. There's other ways of doing it. Electricians can do it for people, but you know what? In 99 out of 100 times, most people are going to be able to just find a spot somewhere outside the wall, and they're going to be able to just stick that ground rod in the ground. I remember when we first started this out, and you couldn't plug into the existing. All of our windows at our home had wires coming out of with ground rods. I think our neighbors thought we were aliens or something. But
then you can test how good a ground you got simply with this simple voltmeter thing you get at the radio.
Well, you can do that, right? But we have continuity testers that are available, and you'll see those on the website.
What are those?
This is it's an optional purchase. It's designed to be used in conjunction with any of the Barefoot Connections products to visually confirm that your Barefoot Connection system is maintaining your body at the same electrical potential as the earth.
Oh, so what about the difference you had mentioned, a voltage of 7 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 3? Is that going to tell you that?
No, that will simply you would put your thumb on a button, and then when you touch the fabric with your other hand, it would light up. And that's just telling you that you're completing the circuit with the earth.
So, I mean, I'm kind of confused here, but I stay that way, Dan, so bear with me. If you're grounded, or you're grounded, it's kind of like being pregnant. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You know, it's is there better grounding? I guess I assume there is.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Ground is ground.
Right.
Okay, but hydration makes a big difference.
I see.
If a person was not very hydrated, then they're not going to be as conductive. But somebody who's extremely hydrated is going to conduct more. Also, we now know inflammation. The more inflamed somebody is, the more electrons their body will conduct. We've measured this. And then as their body subsides inflammation, then it will conduct less electrons. And we did this through very sophisticated laser electrometers, where we actually measured the electrons from the earth to the human body.
Yeah.
It's very interesting stuff.
Here's an email from Hillary. She says, also, the electric current causes a measurable spike in the acidity of the body. It causes blood sugar to spike.
Yep.
Dave Stetzer, we've interviewed Dave. He measured his blood sugar. He's borderline diabetic, and at the same time measuring the electrical output through the plugs. And it's a real thing, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
I mean, it's real.
Yeah, I highly recommend companies like Bow Biology, who produce a product that takes your room off the grid and eliminates the electrical fields. But it's important to understand that you could go and eliminate all the electrical fields in your home, but if your body's not connected to the earth, you're still not receiving the nutrients. So it's important to understand and identify there's two separate issues here.
Yeah.
One is grounding the body. The other one is reconnecting the body with the earth.
So when you are grounded in the sheets at night or the bed pad, it doesn't matter really how screwed up your wiring is. You're cool. You're good to go.
Well, that's interesting.
Is that a fair statement or not?
No. If you're grounded, you're grounded. Even if the neutral is wired to ground in the home instead of a separate ground line, ground is ground. When your body's at the electrical potential of the earth, all electricity is dissipated. And now the electrical potential of the earth is pushing the electrical fields away, even though they might be measurable. If you read in our website, there's a paper by an IEEE from MIT, Roger Applewhite, who explains why the Earth's electrical potential does this. But
yeah, I'm going to read that.
I try to get through it, and my head hurts. But but it's I have a pretty good understanding of this. But you want to make sure the home is grounded, and if you're questioning it at all, I tell most people this is important enough to where it's worthwhile getting a ground rod in there, and I dealt with it out my window for a little while, and then eventually had it permanently installed. Now, fortunately, our home that we live in is fairly new, so I can connect directly to the circuit.
Here's Jennifer in New York enjoying the show. Thank you, Patrick and Dan. And she wants to know about this testing you've mentioned about at the Radio Shack. Do you guys have something on the website? She says it shows you how to rig this thing up.
No, but there are E-field. If you search on internet for E-field detectors, there's different instruments out there that will allow you to measure either by sound or PC interface. You can actually buy I'll tell everybody who's listening, it's a 46 range PC interface digital multimeter from Radio Shack.
46? We'll say it again.
It's called a 46 range PC interface digital multimeter from Radio Shack. They're about, if I remember correctly, they're about $69. And generally, every time I do this, they sell out the Radio Shack the next day. But
46 PC interface, 46 range PC interface digital multimeter.
Yeah, and what this allows you to do is to hook it into a laptop, and then but if you're just doing it for personal use, you don't need the PC interface. You can buy a digital multimeter. You're going to need to ground the negative terminal, and then you'll hold the red one in your hand, and that'll allow you, if your cord is long enough for the ground, allows you to walk around your sleeping area and actually measure your body voltage.
I see.
But also keep in mind that if they're grounded, they don't need that. If you're grounded and you know you're grounded, you're not affected by those fields. So
this thing would only be something if you just wanted to pick it up at Radio Shack just to see what kind of voltage you had going through your body.
Yeah, and a lot of people really need to see that. They're analytical, and that's okay. That's fine. I need it because what I do is actual demonstrations live where I show people. Maybe sometime I can do that for you in video for your website, Patrick. But what I do is I show people that when they're grounded, usually I'll speak on the topic for about 35 to 45 minutes. And by the time I'm done, I turn around and look at everybody and ask them how they feel, and they'll all raise their hand, and it's just amazing, the reactions. You see change in the circulation in their skin, their color of their skin changes, just their whole demeanor changes.
Oh, it's very, very, very interesting stuff. Well, Daniel, you're a nice man, and I think this is extremely exciting. It's good to get into a little relationship with you, and we'll do another show sometime, and we'll maybe bring on a couple of your kind of scientist type things, and I'll really get into some real geeky questions. I love to dig in there and try to, because I'm the same way. I like to figure out exactly how this thing works. It's I think it helps us to heal. I don't know why.
Well, it's you're absolutely right on that. And I want to just say to your audience that's listening, if you took the time to listen to this show, get grounded. And a book that's being written, I won't say who's writing it, but somebody very influential is writing a book right now called Get Grounded and Get Well. And we now know undisputably and quantifiably that your body needs to be connected to the earth. Keep an eye on the science. Tell the ones that you love that have any type of inflammatory challenge, or just even if they're just want to achieve good health, that it's now known you need to be grounded. Join the Barefoot Revolution.
The Barefoot Revolution, and you can go to sleepgrounded.com.
Right.
And put in a code if you'd like to get 10% off on sheets or some one of the products. And the code is PONE. You can remember PONE as for P1 Radio Network, just PONE. And you'll get 10% off. And Daniel Hall, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Patrick.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. You did a good job. You didn't get too geeky on us, so I think we understood.
I have a tendency to do that, and so if I did, if anybody has any questions, they can email me or email you, and we'll stay in touch. And and I look forward to talking with you again, Patrick.
We'll do it
Thank
soon.
you.
Happy New Year to you, and please, we'll see you, Dan. Thank you. Good night.
Happy holidays.
Okay. Happy holidays. Dan Hall of EarthFX.com. Isn't that fun stuff? So don't forget the code if you'd like to get yourself 10% off on that at sleepgrounded.com is PONE. I will see you tomorrow night. We're going to talk about succeeding from the Union and also doing a victory garden. And that's going to be great fun. And also Andy Goss Wednesday. Take off your toofies, take off your socks, and get grounded, folks. And then play Kissy Face. I didn't even talk about playing Kissy Face on a grounded bed. Well, that's another show. Take care of yourself. My name's Patrick Timpone. Know the source on One Radio Network.